All right, at this time, I would like to invite our first panel to come up. Our moderator will be Lynn Spivey, who is the Utilities Director for the City of Plant City, and she will also be joined by April Breton, Tabitha Beal, and Suzanne Meckler, and they will be talking about the current challenges and the current status of water. Is this better? Okay, sorry. Current challenges and status of water resources, more about the big drivers and why. So I will pass it off to Lynn and her panelists whenever they are ready. Better?
I am the director of the City of Plant City's Utility Department for about 8 years now, and I have the pleasure of moderating today for Laura Donaldson, who couldn't make it. So I'm not as entertaining as Laura, I apologize. I'm not a lawyer either, and I'm dangerous in that arena. So I'm going to read the bios, and then we have 3 presentations. I think we'll do it that we can ask questions specific to the presentations, and then after, for the panel, we have some questions. So I'm going to read the bios real quick. For Tabitha Beal is the Land and Water Natural Areas Manager for Polk County Parks and Natural Resource Division. Tabitha Beal is the Land and Water Natural Areas Manager for Polk County Parks and Natural Water Division for 23 years. Tabitha has championed environmental, stormwater, water quality, and conservation projects in Central Florida. Ms. Beal's experience covers a variety of disciplines such as tackling regional water quality issues, listed species management and monitoring, public education and outreach, invasive species management, stormwater, wildlife management, septic to sewer, countywide resiliency planning, and lakes management. She is known for working with partners, implementing successful programs that engage the public, and believes that together we can do so much more. She has an education bachelor's in wildlife biology from Purdue and certified public manager. Congratulations, it's a tough course. We have Ms. April Breton. April has 18 years of experience working with the Southwest Water Management District. I could hear Brian Armstrong saying the best district. She started with the district as an intern and worked her way up to water use permitting and compliance manager in the regulations division. She holds a bachelor's degree in geology from USF, go Bulls. April has extensive knowledge of all things related to water use permitting, including complexities of the Dover Plant City and Southern Water Use Caution Areas, as well as the Central Florida Water Initiative area. In her role, she also helps permittees navigate the permitting policies of the district while passing on her knowledge of net benefit requirements, self-relocations, and impact offset criteria. And Ms. Suzanne Meckler. She's the Client Service Leader and Vice President at CDM. She has 22 years of experience as an environmental and civil engineer with CDM Smith, focusing on water and wastewater treatment, water distribution, as well as water resources. CDM Smith is an engineering and construction firm developing smart solutions for the environment and infrastructure. Did it make you put that in there, Susan? Since joining CDM Smith in January 2002, Ms. Meckler has served as project manager, engineer, client manager overseeing projects in the South Florida area. She's most recently overseen the design and construction of the Palm Beach County Green Cay Phase 2 project, which is such an awesome project, which will provide indirect potable reuse to replenish the aquifer while also providing an education center and park. Suzanne holds a Master's of Engineering degree in Environmental Engineering from the University of Florida. Go Gators, it's written down, had to read it. She was born and raised in Palm Beach County. She enjoys nature photography and generally being outdoors, mountain hiking, biking, kayaking, boating, and paddleboarding. So just a little bit about what our panel is going to talk about. The current status and challenges of water resources, the big drivers and why. And we have 3 presentations. We're going to touch on the Florida economy, water demands and shortages, groundwater resources, surface water resources, reclaimed water resources, everything, water quality issues, and water use. So, volunteer who wants to go first?
I think my slides are up.
I think they can't, nobody can see the panel, so we're kind of going to try it from the podium. We'll see how that works.
The bigger challenge is to keep me from moving around rather than keep me sitting down, I guess. So, good morning, everybody. I'm happy to follow Adam because I feel like he just gave my presentation. So thank you, Adam. I'm going to cover the water quality side of things for our panel discussion. And the title up here is sort of a lead into working in water quality in the state of Florida. I just want to say if Winter Haven is the center of Florida, then that means Polk County is the imperial county of Florida. And I hope you guys like maps because I'm going to use a lot of them in this presentation. So I think it's easiest to talk about water quality using a case study for, and we're going to use our county because that's what I'm familiar with, and the programs that we have addressing water quality. Some of them are going to make sense, and some of them will be like, well, that's not really a water quality program, but yet, isn't it, when we're talking about One Water? So the first program is our Stormwater Municipal Taxing Unit, our MSTU that funds our stormwater programs. The county implemented a Stormwater Technical Advisory Committee to advise the county on how they use our stormwater funds for water quality improvement projects, but also to address our NPDES regulations and requirements, as well as our MEMS4. The next one is in Polk County in 2022. The voters took to the citizens a referendum to protect conservation lands for the protection of water, wildlife, and wilderness in Polk County. So that was passed, so we have a funding source to acquire lands for conservation. Then we also have what we call an FWC, Aquatic Weed Program, cooperative program. How many of you are familiar with this in your local communities? Oh, good. Thank you, Mike, for raising your hand. I've got a couple in the back. Thank you, guys. Don't be bashful. This is the crews that a couple of years ago we heard that they were killing our water quality and killing all of our animals and plants and all that kind of stuff because they were treating invasive non-native species. And the FWC actually had to put a halt to the program for several months while they did sort of a informational program. That halt for 6 months or so really hurt the water quality in our states, and particularly here in Polk County, because while we were on our maintenance program, a routine maintenance program, all of a sudden that program was halted, routine maintenance was not occurring, and to catch back up to create things to be more navigable, then we had to do some very large water quality treatments, which can have a negative short-term effect on water quality. And so, why this program isn't considered a water quality improvement project, what affects the lake of what affects the health of our lakes? One of the biggest things that does affect the health of our lakes is vegetation management. And so, through that process, FWC has revised it and looked at a more holistic management approach. But this is an important part in the water quality picture and conversation. We also have a lab. Internally in Polk County, we have a lab that conducts ambient water quality sampling on over 100 lakes and 30 to 40 streams within our county on a quarterly basis. That provides us a good baseline for us to help address some of our water quality issues, but also highlight water quality issues. Then we have a management team that manages those water and natural resources, because you can't just have them and nobody managing them, so we have a large team that focuses on that, and when appropriate, provides recreation. And why is recreation important? We're going to talk about the public's interaction on water quality as we go through. So I was going to do this really fun game. You heard educator in my bio because that's just me. I have this ball, like a beach ball, we just throw around the room. And as you catch it, we take turns saying how many times your right thumb lands on water. And it's a globe, by the way. I should have told you it's the earth. Globe is the beach ball. And every time your thumb lands on water, we take a mark. Every time it lands on the land, we take a mark. And we do that about 20 times throughout the room. What percentage of the earth is covered in water? It's 75, 70, 72. There's a good little range. It's average. Glaciers are melting, things are happening. It's good. So in general, a majority of the earth is covered in water. Well, what kind of water is that the majority of the earth is covered in? What percent is salt water? 99. Oh, that's really scary, but it's up there. You're right, 97. And then we have about 3% left. Of that 3%, 2% is glaciers, icebergs, right? So that leaves us with 1% fresh water. And of that 1% of that fresh water of the earth, a drop is available to us for freshwater consumption. Now, some of you very smart people in the room are doing some really crazy things to access some of that little bit over that drop in the bucket, which is a good thing. But for the most part, it's one drop. And we're all here to manage that one drop of water. I just wanted to put in perspective. It's not like a big task or anything you guys are set with together, but. So what have we been doing in Polk County? Well, 2013 is when our stormwater program started. And I want to set this timeline in place so some following graphs make a little bit more sense. But it takes several years. You know, you don't just get a program and say, let's go do good projects. Any good program goes through water quality management planning, feasibility studies over the feasibility studies, and then design and permitting. And then after all of that, you gotta find funding. And then you start to implement. So, fast forward from 2013 all the way to 2024, we are finally to the process where we're starting to construct and implement some of those stormwater projects that we've been working on for a good number of years, 10 plus years. The only other thing I wanted to point out that happened during this time is the referendum for us to also have a program to purchase lands for conservation value. So how are we doing in Polk? We're doing great. Approximately 100 lakes we monitor. We have a 10-year water quality historical data trends. And from those, our parameter summary is we have 156, there are 159, I don't want to short us here, 159 are improving, 300 have no significant trend, and 79 are declining. Sounds great. What? Polk County is a part of 6 different watersheds. We have 3 different water management districts. And of that, this is how many impairments we have throughout the county. It gets worse because I'm going to show maps of this here in a second. So we're going to talk about the different impairments as we go through, because this is the water quality portion of the top. So the first map I'm showing up here in this lightly golden orange area shows the areas that are impaired from the EPA. So these are impaired waters from the EPA. We have 10 lakes and 16 streams, so 26 impairments from the EPA. Thanks to our good partners at the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, we also have 74 impaired waters in Polk County. So the red areas cover that. A lot of times we refer to the regulators, it's regulations. Really, that's not what this should be about. What this approach is we're working together at federal, state, and local levels to address water quality issues. And sometimes you need some assistance from federal and state level to help push the locals to make some changes. Maybe not this much help, I'm good, no more impairments, I would be fine with. And from those impairments, then we have this thing called total maximum daily loads for a variety of different parameters. Majority in Polk County are for nutrient loading. Again, the map on the top here is from our state TMDLs, and then we have our EPA TMDLs. Individually like this, it doesn't look that bad, right? There's attainable. You're seeing some tendencies or trends with this map. So let me just put it all together on one map together. Well, there it is, Polk County's impaired waters. I think we're doing like 50-50 in the impaired waters at this point, pretty close to that. We're a large county, by the way, we're the size of Rhode Island. Just putting that out there. 100 people are moving to the county on a daily basis, and we have all these impaired water situations to deal with. Moving right along, in addition to the TMDLs, we also have BMAPs coverage, and this is the BMAP coverage for Polk County. The large one on the east side of the county is the Lake Okeechobee for covering the Kissimmee watershed. Then we have the Alafaya and the Tampa Bay area on the western side. In addition, we also have 10 alternate restoration plans, also known as 4E plans within our county. So this is an alternate way, instead of ending up with a BMAP at the end of the day, an alternate restoration plan gives you a guide at the beginning of the TMDL process. Also, recently pulled up the new list that are being proposed for new TMDLs for Polk County. We have 3 additional water bodies that are being evaluated for a TMDL in the next couple years. So we have 3 more lakes that are going to be added to this wonderful list of water quality challenges that we have. I'm not going to call them regulations, we're just going to call them challenges. I know this is a water quality talk, but I can't tell you how much water quality actions and restoration projects have been affected in this county due to minimum flows and levels as well. And so you can't implement water quality projects if you don't have any water. And while you would think, oh, you're doing it for the good of things, so obviously you can get some water for a water quality project. That regulatorily, okay, I'll use regulatory there. By Florida statute, we'll go with those words. By Florida statute, that is not the case. There is not an exception for a water quality improvement project. Maybe there should be. In addition with that, some of the other things that affect water quality from more of a management perspective of state and local agencies is planing growth, our harmful algal blooms. The state has an amazing dashboard to go to see where your harmful algal blooms are happening within your county. If the local press finds that location, know that they're going to be hitting little stories saying, oh, the water quality is bad again in this area. And that's been happening on a much more recurring basis here in Polk County. Then we also have the Florida stormwater rule with the stormwater ponds that is taking effect, and it'll be coming forward for us to consider. But what else affects water quality in Polk County? Well, all these things do. We were talking about the FWC Cooperative Spray Program. This is just what's happening on my lake. It's a FWC managed website. You can see the number of aquatic management plans that are posted on a week-by-week basis here. So you can see how much work is being done on invasive species in this area on a week-by-week basis. Now, you have to work closely with FWC and also understand that in addition to those publicly implemented programs, there are this many aquatic plant management permits also issued in our area. So these are like private landowners, homeowners that want to clear their lakefront. So they are also doing vegetation management on the lakes as well. So you've not only got to balance the public programs, but also what the private individuals, and be very aware of what's going on those lakes ahead of time. Because those are being implemented by private, they're licensed, but they're being implemented by private companies. Who else do you got to work with for water quality? Because I think Michael T is not here anymore. But you talked about, we used to be siloed. There's your utilities, your roads and drainage program, your planning group, and then your natural resources. Well, we've got a bridge over to roads and drainage as well, our street sweeping program. This is a coverage of the streets being swept in Polk County right now by the individual municipalities to improve the water quality. This is a huge, huge way to prevent additional nutrients from entering our water bodies and our stormwater drains. In addition to those drain systems, we also have all of these existing outfalls that are out there. These are stormwater pipes or conveyances that could be affecting water quality either because they are damaged, they're functioning, hopefully they're functioning correctly, but if they're damaged, or they have vegetation blockage, or a variety of other things can really shift how water quality is being affected in these systems. So management of these are important as well. Now we're getting on to the fun stuff. Adam mentioned the new septic to sewer programs and some of the septic remediation plan requirements that are being implemented through the BMAPs, through the NPDES permitting process to address this. I applaud this. This is like stick your head in the sand for so many years and then eventually somebody says you have to pull your head out and we have to talk about it. And I think that's what is happening right now. And it's a little nerve-wracking. I'll be the first to mention it's a little nerve-wracking. So this is a map. One of the requirements of that remediation plan is to take a look at the subdivisions with 50 plus lots with at least with septic tanks in them per acre. You can't see the number, but that's the coverage in Polk County of septic tanks is what's being shown on this map. And that's around 36,000 existing, just meeting those parameters of 50 plus in the lots. So, sombering moments. I'm not gonna give you the price of how much it would be to put that to sewer. You wanna do calculations? We recently have worked on a project where it was cheaper to acquire the land than it would have been to do the sewer to septic conversion in the future. And that's currently where we're at for septic to sewer conversions. The next one is our vulnerability assessment. And how does this have to do with stormwater? Well, again, this is dealing with our floodwater systems. How those floodwaters are treated, how they're held, how they're moved through the system. That has a huge role in water quality. And this is a first draft of our vulnerability assessment plan that we're working on at a countywide level. It shows all the critical assets that are included in here. A lot of these critical assets have to do with septics and packaging plants and those kind of things that might be affected during a storm. So we're going to talk more. Sorry, my end got moved over in wetland, but we're going to talk more. There's also aquifer recharge, wetland protection, water supply, funding, and public support. So I figured I'd share those, how we're using them, and some examples of some water projects that we're implementing. There's a whole long list of different water quality improvement projects that one can implement in your location. A lot of these are very targeted, are stormwater or water quality projects. So I'm going to move on to some projects that are a little bit more water and nature. The first one is our Lake Gwynn site. This is a small site. The canal that you see through the middle, the berm currently, that you see through the middle is a part of the Juanita Drainage Canal. That canal system drained that lake till it was completely pretty much dry and just during very high water times get a little bit of water. So we've improved this site. We've increased water quality, moving improvement from the north to the south as the water moves through. We've increased the water storage capacity in this small area. We've provided public recreation, but also public education on how these systems can fit in. There was a plan to also work on some aquifer recharge in the past, but we haven't fully implemented that portion of this project at this time. The next one is our Lake Lulu. Lake Lulu, for those of you familiar with Winter Haven, where the big construction project's going on for the Chain of Lakes Stadium, that is Lake Lulu. This wetland sits on the south end. But more importantly, out of the middle of this project, that canal leading out, is where all of the water from the south end of the Chain of Lakes goes out to the Juanita Drainage Canal, ultimately the Peace Creek Canal, and then the Peace River. We're working in the Kissimmee watershed. We did a watershed assessment model to identify what the nutrient loads were in the Kissimmee area for the Lake Okeechobee BMAP. And oh joy, guess what it pointed out? Concentrated septic tanks near lakes in the Kissimmee watershed. So we are now, this is our sort of area of focus for the first round of our septic to sewer conversions. And then there's these kind of projects where the conservation of the 600 acres protected over 2.5 miles of lakefront on Lake Marion. Not only does it prevent septic tanks from going right up to the shoreline, but it also protected 2.5 miles of living shoreline, which is a natural systems improvement project, water quality improvement project. That was already there, just protecting that and allowing that to continue. One of the biggest ones, the map probably looks familiar to some people. To orient you, Lake Hancock, we're somewhere in the middle of those smaller lakes up there. This is the Peace Creek Canal System. And this is where MFLs become fun and knowing your water supply. But each of these star locations are places along the Peace Creek Canal that we're working to restore historic wetlands. This was an agricultural ditch that was dug all the way from Haines City down to Lake Wills and over to Bartow in the early 2030s, before we had good maps to know how much water was going through the system, to drain all these wetland systems. Now we're trying to go back and restore those wetlands for not only water quality improvement projects, recreation, but also flood mitigation is huge with this one. And hopefully some recharge value would come from it at the end of the day. This is one of those projects, what it could look like up close. The Wilson Ranch that's been mentioned, it was on that Peace Creek Canal. This one's just to the west of the Wilson Ranch project. How does this happen? It doesn't happen without funding. I'm just sharing how desperate I am, really, so if anybody wants to give me money, you'll notice we're in a spike. You see my spike and then it drops. That's just the reality of our program. Our stormwater MSTU only brings in $2 million a year. My stormwater budget this year is $40 million, and that's due to leveraging funds and matching funds and doing some really creative stuff that I said I would never do, but I keep doing. But I want to thank all these funding partners too, because without these partnerships and funding projects, these great projects don't happen. Again, just sort of a breakdown of the next 5 years for our stormwater budget. So how do you manage your drop in the bucket? That's what I want you to take away today, because we all just have that one drop we're working together to manage. And I don't know how we do it without considering it a one water, looking across each of the different programs and managing it together. And thank you for this opportunity.
So first I'll take questions from the audience. Any questions quickly before we go to our next? No? I have questions, Tabitha. Do you expect that we will see significant water improvements with the implementation of the new statewide stormwater rules?
So the intent is yes, right? The intent is yes. I think Adam wants to see that. We all want to see improvement. I think the harder question, sometimes these kind of big concepts that come down sort of feels like the Endangered Species Act. It sounds really good at the high level, but it comes down to the details and how it's implemented and enforced. And so I'm hopeful that with leadership, they'll really fully fund it and have the staffing to support that through the process.
I agree. And then, let's see, Laura has another really good one. Even though a substantial portion of the state is a water use caution area, the state has recently been more focused on water quality issues than water quantity issues, especially since there have not been any significant droughts. With the recent floodings, do you believe this emphasis will continue, and should it?
Should water quality still be important? Of course. I think for all of us in the room that's been here, we know things ebb and flow when funding cycles happen. Adam said it best, is there was a great intention given to water quality because of the public feedback. And so one of the things that we don't do well is sometimes it's that concern to let the public know how bad things are or the way things are going, because it'll look like we mismanage things back here without them knowing and being informed of those situations. Until we get comfortable to have that conversation, I think we're going to be constantly in this cycle of ebbs and flows and what the funding cycles chase after.
myself. This is not good. All right. All right, before I start, how many people here are from South Florida? Yay! Okay, 4. All right. And then how many people are familiar with this project I'm about to talk about, Palm Beach County Green K Phase 2? All right, Adam, yes, raise your hand. Good, thank you. Okay. All right, I'm gonna try to give it a perspective for how this project came to be, because it's a little unique. If you're from South Florida, you know it's pretty built out, not a lot of land available. So we're just gonna talk through what Palm Beach County was doing with these water supply projects and how they ended up where they're at right now. I'm gonna talk specifically about Green K Phase 2, which is in construction, and then some activities related to the construction. So Palm Beach County is a little bit unique, their water utilities department, because they've been doing reclaimed water for a very long time. Palm Beach County in general has been doing reclaimed water for a very long time. Kind of when we did our growth back in the 2000s, we started putting purple pipe in, right? So we were doing it as development was occurring. And so reclaimed water in South Florida, especially in Palm Beach County, is pretty significant. In addition, I'm gonna talk a little bit more about this, but you see those 2 projects there, Wakota-Hatchie and Green K Phase 1. Those projects are 20 to 25 years old now, and they were built to take reclaimed water, okay? And they became these kind of nature centers, and they did this really to, I'm gonna kind of explain a little bit of the details of it, but to show a path of other uses for reclaimed water. They also have a Floridan well system out west, so they do have other alternative water supply mechanisms. So Green K and Wakota-Hatchie. Has anybody been to Green K and Wakota-Hatchie? Yay, okay. Huge birding, like basically picture lovely boardwalks around, huge birding opportunities. They're actually TripAdvisor attraction. And people just go there to pretty much take pictures of birds, to do walking. There are some really intense people who walk there every morning at 7 a.m. when the gates open. They know that place better than anyone. And I'll just say more than anything, nobody really knows anymore that that was reclaimed water, or that is reclaimed water. They just go there, right? It's a wetlands, it's a tourist attraction. So it's been 20, 25 years, and it's very interesting to see that there's kind of that disconnect associated with the reclaim system. So the projects that are going on right now, they do multiple things. They do the purple pipe within Palm Beach County, and then most of you know that we had ocean outfall kind of way before Senate Bill 64, right? We had ocean outfall requirements, and Broward County had to make a change. They had to do reclaimed water to minimize their ocean outfall, and they had no place to put it. And legitimately, they were built out. So Palm Beach County and Broward County kind of came to an agreement. So Palm Beach County actually takes Broward County's reclaimed water and uses it in their system as well. And then you'll see here the Green K. Let's see if I can do this without getting anything in trouble. So this is a wastewater plant. This is a Green K wetland that is 20 years old. This is water treatment plant 3. Okay, so there's a well field all around here that supports water treatment plant 3, which is a membrane plant. And then this is our property, okay? So before I go on, I'm just gonna kind of explain this property. As you can see, there is development and development, development, golf course, development, development, development. This is a guy named Ted Winsberg, who's a farmer, Winsberg Farms, 30 years ago said, yeah, I don't really want my farm to be developed. So he worked with Palm Beach County and essentially sold them the land, okay, and has been leasing it for the last the last 25 years. So this whole property was his. 25 years ago when it happened, they built that, and then he's been leasing this land. This is actually his house right there. Amazing guy, he's actually still lives there right now on site. I think he's 92 years old. So that is really why this project is happening. And I would just encourage everyone, there's not a lot of land in Palm Beach County, there's not a lot of land anywhere in South Florida, but there's one guy, one farmer who didn't want his place to go to development and is able to create a project from it two projects, right? So you might be frustrated, there might be like development coming in everywhere, but all it takes is one or two people to make something happen. All right, so let's talk about the project a little bit. This is the wastewater treatment plant, secondary treatment plant, reclaimed water system back here, right? This is what creates the purple pipe. And we're gonna put our system right up front here, okay? We're gonna take it one step further. And let me tell you why. The county sees the trend, right? They saw that there was this kind of desire to take the next step, They see the California views, requirements, and they wanted to put their toe in the water, right? They were not required to put their toe in the water to do this project, right? We're not under Senate Bill 64. They don't have any of those requirements. They wanted to figure out a project, they had the land, how they could really take the next step and determine whether this more treatment-intensive indirect potable reuse, which essentially could eventually be direct, could apply, and how they could get the community buy-in for it. So their focus is really on water supply and aquifer recharge, right? We're right next to their well field. But also innovation, technology, trying to take that next step, educate the public, we'll kind of go into that, do something for the environment and for the community that has been so impacted and supportive of the current project, Green Phase Wetlands, and then just continue to raise awareness. So I'm gonna step back because we had to do this all while the reuse regulations were being developed, which was always fun. It's like, what's next? But we knew it was coming. We pretty much knew what was expected. The county wanted to do essentially what I would call a California treatment anyway, right? They wanted to go the full treatment, so there was no uncertainty there. But the source water evaluation report, which is required by the regulations, was kind of like, uh-oh, I hope this works, because if it doesn't, we're in trouble. And what we did is we were able to go through and evaluate. They are very lucky. They do not have a lot of industrial discharge into their current wastewater treatment plant, okay? So mostly residential. And we were able to go through, utilize all the pilot studies that had happened in the area, utilize our piloting, which was 6 months worth of piloting. We were able to get kind of a little bit of relief on that because we had so many similar pilot studies done in the area. And we basically did an analysis of all the source water issues and all the potential things that we would find, PFAS being one of them, right? So this is the technology that was chosen. We have UF, RO, and then UVAOP, and we have kind of a breakpoint chlorination system on the back end, which is required to help us achieve the water quality requirements that we need in the lake system to keep it stabilized. So this, this is a very typical system for indirect potable reuse and even direct potable reuse. This system provided in a piloting complete removal of pretty much everything. The RO system does that. So any of the emerging contaminant issues, any of the PFAS were removed in this system, okay? So we are able to prove that to the community as well. Here's a treatment train. Like I said, let me just clarify, it is a 2 MGD system, expandable to 4 MGD. One of the issues that we had along the way, which we can talk about a little bit more, is figuring out the capacity of the 63 acres we had, and it ended up being 2 MGD, okay? So they have the ability to go to 4 MGD, but they need to either find more land or find another source, or another place to dispense. But really, at the end of the day, this is kind of a demonstration facility, but obviously 2 MGD is not really demonstration, expandable to 4, but they really, really, really wanted this education center. So this is the reason why, and it's not just for this project, it's not just to show 2 MGD of what indirect potable reuse technology looks like, it's to really help advertise the water industry, to help explain all the different technologies that are used. So I'm gonna go through this in a second, but let's see. So to set the stage here, this is the treatment, right? Back inside of the house. So UF, RO, UV, okay? And then this is the education center with classrooms. So what they do is they pretty much have the front end of the house is the education center, the back end is the treatment with, control room and required treatment systems. What you'll see here is this is the key. right? We're connecting it so that people can see the technology. Now, I know if you go into a membrane treatment plant and you see a membrane, you're like, oh yay, it's a membrane, right? So we do have ways, we are working with education, exhibit people to kind of make this a little bit more exciting and to really try to hone down what exactly occurs in these treatment processes. But the classrooms are the key. They have a lab here even though they don't need it. What's up here? So process, right? Here's the process side, here's the education side. All right, so that's the walkthrough. Purified water goes to the park, concentrate back to the headworks, which if we want to talk about that, we can. Reclaim water in. Okay, so this is the park side. So this is the current Winsburg property. Okay, like I said, this is his area. This is what we're building, okay? So we essentially are creating lakes inside an existing facility. It's gonna be a little bit different from the wetland side, which again was created. This is going to be more accessible, so you can kayak on it, right? You are allowed to touch it. We're not allowing swimming or fishing in it, mainly because of the routine requirements for sampling and stuff that wouldn't be necessary to allow that, but you could. But we're essentially limiting to kayaking. You pretty much have to put your work in the kayak. You have to like braid it to there, put it in your own ramp. So you gotta really want to do it, right? But this playground is kind of a different feel. So we have playground equipment. The other place is more set up for really bird watching, wetland viewing. This one is more set up for kind of interactivity. We do have this like spring type look, trying to achieve so that the water will be much clearer than the current wetlands, so trying to show that difference. Okay, so people have asked me about this. We are permitted, because we're in construction, so everyone's like, oh, I hope you are. Yes, we're permitted. We got a permit on May 6, 2024. We are under the current regulations, right? Or the old regulations, whatever we want to call them. As an application, R002. However, everything we've done for the permitting process is what's required for the next regulatory requirements, right? So we've already been in conversations with them that once the new regulatory requirements come in, you know, there will be sampling changes and other things that will change along the way. All right, so just quickly, we are in construction. This is the plant itself, and this is the footprint of the plant. So these are chemical trenches that are going in, all right? And you can see here, this is pre-chemical trench, that's the chemical trenches in. We have a long way to go, right? We're in month probably 6 or 7 of construction on this site, and that's the biggest part. Of course, we actually were pouring those concrete footers when the 2 hurricanes came through, so anybody wants to schedule construction, you know, schedule those pours in August. Okay, this is the park. This one's actually moving along pretty quickly. So you can see here, I don't know if you can see it. Okay, see all the farm lines, right? This is all that was their farm setup. And we started excavating, right? I can kind of see where that's supposed to be on top of it. And this is what it looks like today, right? So we're excavating, we're pretty much done. What you'll see here, because we've gotten some questions about offsite impacts, this is a seepage canal that goes all along the edge, and that's essentially to avoid offsite impacts, right? So we're built up for the purposes of creating head to go down and push as much as we can into the aquifer, okay? And then we have the seepage canal to control some of the offsite impacts and no, direct discharge to the Lakewood Drainage District, which is that canal on the bottom. All right, I'm gonna talk a little bit about the exhibits just because when you're talking about education to the public, this has really been us trying to figure out what the public thinks. It's really, really, really hard to explain everything that a utility does to the public and make it fun. No offense to our industry, but so we've been working with this company called Roto. They're based out of Chicago. What they do is education exhibits. The other challenge that we've had is how do you make it where you're trying to really highlight the new technologies and you're proud of the new technologies you're creating, but at the same time you don't want to show that the current system, the reclaimed water system, the purple pipe system, isn't as good, right? You really need to highlight both. And so how do you do that successfully? So this is how how we're making the purification journey or the show a little bit more exciting than just seeing a membrane plant. We have kind of screens and a story along the way as they're walking through here. It's like a 5-minute script to walk through. And then, okay. So that was it, other than cost, because people keep asking me how much this thing costs. So it's a $100 million project, okay? That includes design. It's a progressive design build project. And that was probably one of the biggest challenges was the cost, because of course, this project happened pretty much during COVID transition. And as everybody knows, year after COVID. So it was a challenge. I think their budget originally was 50. So we were asking for a lot of money, but they were committed. They had the land and they wanted to do something. They had promised Winsburg they would do something. They were committed to the project. So this includes 2 MGD expandable to 4 MGD, education facility, pipeline to the park, and construction of a 63-acre park. Okay? Can you click that little link there in like the light blue? Let's see if this works. Because this is kind of how we sold the project. No? Let's see. Oh, it's going to make you do all kinds of stuff. I kind of saw it in the bottom corner there, though. I don't know. All right, no worries. In a break, I can always show you guys that. You can go back to the presentation. But I do have a YouTube link, which is what we use to tell the community about the project and help sell the project. Okay, so we have received grants. Like I said, the county was committed to the project no matter what. But it is an alternative water supply project. We were very much needing to get as much help as possible to continue to move forward, and the partnership with this grant program was really key. So these are the grants that we applied for. The first one has been awarded. The second one is pending, I think just signatures. And the third one is still out there. And this is to really focus on the actual purification side of the structure. So you'll see that amount doesn't cover the project, right? But we are focused on trying to get as much as we can for this specific treatment technology, and also use it to really help guide lessons learned other utilities that are looking to go that route. We have had significant outreach. The neighborhoods that you saw all around the park were very interested. They are active in going to Green Cay Phase 1 and the wetlands there. So I think we had over 7 neighborhood meetings and neighborhoods and multiple meetings per neighborhood. Mostly retirees, but some working plus retiree, all gated community, HOA types. And honestly, they didn't really care much about anything but the park. I mean, I had so many interesting questions, like, are you gonna put a fence up so the gators don't come from your property to my property? And I had to go back to the aerial and show the canal that was in between our properties and basically say, that's where they are, they're not in my lake. I mean, so, but we did put up a fence because it made them happy. So we have a fence. The alligators can't climb in or out, apparently. But they were very interested in the park components, right? Less interested in the technology, more interested in that it was something that the county was looking to do and be, supportive of. The education center is really for the community, right? It's not necessarily for that area, it's for kids. The way that we're working the education center is we're working with the Palm Beach County School District to make it a part of their tour. So every kid that's in second grade is going to go to this education center during their school year of training, of learning. So that's kind of how we're incorporating all the different aspects into the community. And with that, I'll open it up to questions.
So, what kind of support did you get from the community? I mean, especially about the funding, and did the funding all come from the utility department besides this come out of CIP funding?
Yeah, the funding came all out of the utility department.
Okay.
They wanted it, you know, they had planned for it to be on their CIP for a long time at 40 to 50 million. When we started getting the pricing in, they, you know, we all generally freaked out for a little bit. And they tried to get Parks to provide. Parks is actually the Parks Department is gonna own the park afterwards. But Parks had no money. So they basically committed that they would put the money in. They were not happy that the PFAS regulations came out because now their CIP is like 20 times higher than it was. But yeah, they committed to it, and we've been working to get funding from multiple areas to kind of help appropriations, as well as trying to get the education center funded. You know, one of the things that we had looked into doing is getting kind of a nonprofit to come in and take over the education center, because they also now have to fund maintenance and staffing of that facility. So yeah, they just committed and bought off on it and decided to go with it.
So is the thought that once the community is used to the concept that there's a potential to go to direct portable payments?
Yeah, I will say that, you know, it's interesting that the community has been pushing back lately on Purple Pipe, which is interesting because we've been doing it in South Florida for so many years. But the Broward County project initially got a lot of support, and in the last couple of years has gotten a significant amount of pushback. I think people don't want to see Purple Pipe as much anymore. It cracks me up because the wetlands are the same thing, but they don't associate it, right? And they had a whole conversation on PFAS in reclaimed water at neighborhood meetings, because we do have PFAS in our reclaimed water. And in their minds, they kind of saw this coming, and they're like, okay, and that's a huge amount of their supply. So they think that they're gonna eventually need to transition completely away from the kind of this typical secondary plus, you know, filter system for the reclaimed, and potentially transition completely to this. And they're not against going direct. I mean, they have a membrane plant right there. So it would actually make a lot of sense to do it, but they don't have to, and they weren't ready to make that commitment, but they're for it.
So my presentation is just a little bit of history and about the Central Florida Water Initiative, CFWI. So in the pink area here, that is where the 3 water management districts come together: St. John, South Florida, and Southwest Florida. And that is where we have our new rules and regulations. The CFWI development. So the guiding principles were to initiate a process to help make sure we have water for the future. It was to identify the sustainable quantities of our traditional groundwater source available for supplies that can be used without causing unacceptable harm to the water resources and their associated natural systems. We've tried to develop strategies to meet our water demands that are in excess of the sustainable yield of existing traditional groundwater sources. UFA, Upper Floridan Aquifer, is what we consider a traditional water source. Establishing consistent rules and regulations in the 3 water management districts that meet their collective goals and implement the results of the Central Florida Water Initiative. So we work together. We have monthly meetings on the 3 water management districts to make sure that we're all staying on track. These are very important documents: the applicant's handbook and the design aids for the CFWI. If you've read them again, and then once you're done with that, read them again. It'd be very beneficial. There's so much information in these documents. Reading it once or twice is not enough. I have it on my nightstand to make sure it doesn't seep in through osmosis, but there's a lot of information, especially when you're getting ready to come in for a pre-application meeting and or work with any of the water management districts. And so, Central Florida Water Initiative rules. So, in Southwest Florida, we have the Southern Water Use Caution Area as well as CFWI, especially in this area. So, the CFWI rules add to our SWCA rules. You have to meet both of those roles when applying for a water use permit or renewing now for your water use permit. Requirements of the CFWI rules touch on all water use categories: agriculture, mining, dewatering, institutional uses, and of course, public supply. So the water management districts, there was a regional and regulatory model to evaluate the inter-district impacts based on the best available information, and so that model is the ECFTX model. I have another name for that model, but I'll keep that to myself. So one of the main parts of the rules is the annual conservation goal. It's a plan that for a lot of public suppliers, they needed to submit this plan already. Should have been done in July of 2024 this year. But it's separate and a requirement than your normal conservation plan, but you can utilize information from both to submit. So it's a 5-year plan, and one of the key things is identifying the specific person that should be keeping up with your progress for your conservation. So please track them yearly, and that plan should be submitted with any permit application renewal and or modification. And again, Design Aid 2 provides a great example of that, so read it. So this is the big thing for public supply, is quantities from the Upper Floridan Aquifer. So everybody's been hearing that limits the Upper Floridan quantities to their 2025 demand. Again, it does all impact industrial, commercial, mining, dewatering, and institutional uses. I believe this is where the osmosis should have been kicking in, but if you're any of those other use types, your 2025 demand is actually what was established in the summer of 2021. So that's kind of important too. So alternative water supplies, lower quality water sources, impact offsets, substitution credits, and redistribution are needed to meet demands if additional water use is needed from the Upper Floridan Aquifer. Modeling of hydrologic data must demonstrate that the requested allocation can occur without further lowering the potentiometric surface of the Upper Floridan Aquifer when compared to the applicant's demonstrated 2025 demand. So that's a modeling exercise, but very important. So again, kind of going back with the conservation goal, we have everybody in public supply knows that you have your per capita amounts, and your calculation method that's used in your public supply annual report. With SwiftMud, when we work on getting our per capitas down, that calculation is pretty close to what we currently do in our district. But the goal is to get that you'll be at a 115 gallons per day gross per capita or 100 gallons per day functional per capita. That'll be monitored through your PSAR, but those targets are supposed to be met out in 2043. Then I kind of go into this long, but this is actually not that bad. I mean, this is your plan that should have been submitted by 2024 in July. If you haven't submitted them, you'll be getting a letter. But most everybody has, because if you were part of the cooperative, one was all done for everyone, so that should be fine. When December 31st, 2033 comes, everyone will, in the CFWI, needs to be halfway to their goal, which is the 115 or the 100. By 2043, permittees shall achieve an alternative per capita water use rate that is not greater than their per capita goal. And if you have not achieved that by December 31st, 2043, you'll need to write up a plan and send it into the water management district as to why. And we usually, just like when we went to the 150 per capita, the district works with the permittees to try to see what's going on and where we can help, and how long is it going to be until you get to that goal. But you have almost 20 years, so we should be working on that. That's all I have about the CFW line. Any questions?
I have Laura. So April, is Swift Mud seeing water use permitting applications that implement one water approach, or any expected issues that have arisen from?
We've only had. Okay. We've only had a few applications actually come in, and I would say most of those have just either been RIBs or land use transitions to help offset. So, but I don't know.
How many utilities out there? Most people utilities, or no, not a lot of utilities? So we're doing a one water strategic plan sort of thing, and trying to see what credits we can capture, so we might be next.
Yeah.
Then the other question I have is, so Central Florida Water Initiative was really set up because it's a heartland area of our state that was running out of water for the planning horizon. With the growth of our state, do you see more CFWIs being created in our state to manage water for its growth? I mean, it's been such a complicated venture, so I could.
As a regulator, I think if we have one drop, I think we're going to have to. Just like in the north, where they're going to have to develop, water use caution areas. I think it does help. It does take all the stakeholders to come together and work on getting, common goals so that they can be attainable, so that it can be sustainable. But yeah, I think it is going to be necessary, especially with all the people moving in every day.
I kind of don't see a way around it.
No,
And
exactly.
it's been so complicated that I also don't understand how to do that.
Yeah.
All right, so this is some questions for the panel. I can't see. Okay, with water quality and water quantity issues throughout the state, how does the state need to address these issues while meeting future potable supply demands? This is a Laura question. How do you solve everything? Did anyone take a stab at that?
We just go to Adam and say, hey, Adam.
Yeah.
I think I tried that and it didn't work, but we have to be creative. So we're going to have to be innovative. We're going to have to be creative. I think we take the lead of what the Southwest Florida Water Management District did around Lake Hancock. What the state has done in the Kissimmee. I think we're going to see more water reservations established to help reserve some water, what water is available in those systems for surface water quality projects and wildlife.
And so you're in parks, right? And so cooperation, how do you communicate with the utility department? Is that an open dialogue, or?
So I'm a talkative person by nature. And so we actually meet on a monthly basis and have a conversation and talk about projects on a monthly basis. At least, that's like our not forced, I just join them on their monthly conversation. But I think it's just the realization that like when our watershed assessment model came back and highlighted septic tanks as the #1 nutrient loading in the Kissimmee watershed, and to understand what that means for Polk County that is our undeveloped area of the county. The eastern side of Polk County is our wildlife corridor area. That's really our undeveloped. And to recognize that even these very small densities of septic tanks are making influence on some of our water bodies and our lakes in that region, I don't know how you don't reach out to them and have that conversation. I don't know anything about septic. Well, I hopefully know a little bit about things now, but when it started, I had no idea. So I think you just follow what your nutrient loadings are, what water quality problems are, and then you reach out to help problem solve.
I think for the water quantity part, it's going to be very advantageous for in times when we have an excess amount of water, just like with the hurricanes and the flooding, that water just doesn't sit and go to waste. I know, like when we have extra flows in the rivers and things are meeting their MFLs, there needs to be processes and ways to harvest that water to be able to save for when things are dry and when more quantity is needed, and not just let it evaporate to the air.
Suzanne?
I am so happy to hear you say that.
But that's one of the biggest challenges, I think, of our state, is really understanding the stormwater component.
Yeah, and then like Brian Armstrong always says, you're not going to run out of water, you're going to run out of cheap water. And so that's something that I think everybody is going to have to look at, actually.
You want to take a stab? How do you solve everything?
Yeah, I mean, we have challenges. We're currently working for the City of Hollywood on their stormwater master planning efforts, and I think that capital plan is $1 billion. And you think that most cities would be like, just leave people but that doesn't happen. Everybody's trying to figure it out. People don't want to leave, they want to stay in their homes, but we have to come up with a solution. The Water Management District, South Florida Water Management District is really focused on the connectivity of the system. We have a lot of funding going in Broward County, and they're essentially redoing the CNSF, because we did a really good job at disconnecting everything to help us out with flooding, and now effort is essentially helping us flood. So it is a challenge. I think that every city that I go to these days, rates are increasing, either from a stormwater utility side, from a water and wastewater rate side, and there's really, unfortunately, no way around it unless somebody just sends money down through the rain. That would be great. So really, we just have to kind of keep working together and make sure that everybody understands that this industry, this group of people is doing everything we possibly can, but the challenges are huge. And I think making sure you get out there into the public, doing education centers, making sure we're selling what we do, because we're doing it for the people so that they can live here. And sometimes we don't do a really good job of making that connection for them. And so I just would encourage everyone to work with other departments, get out there, get creative, because I don't see it ending anytime soon.
One more question I have time for? Okay, so this I think leads into this last question. Why do people or regulators care what the source of water is for public supply? And I think this is sort of where we're going with the One Water and understanding the source.
Honestly, I don't think most people care that much about the source anymore. I mean, toilet to top, Laura's gonna kick me on the head for saying it, right? We're not allowed to say that. But I actually see most people being supportive of it. We have to show that we can treat it, we have to show that we know what we're doing, but we have people that are looking to go to desal because they want their water. Well, most of them are on islands that want to use it for irrigation. But I mean, they're willing to spend a lot of money on certain things in some areas, and some people, they just want water. They just want good, clean water. And as long as you go through the steps and are willing to show them what good, clean water is, and explain how you got there and why you're there and why this is a challenge, I mean, we're still incredibly lucky. If you travel the nation, there are a lot of places that have crazier challenges, right? We have challenges, but we have water. We just got to figure out how best to treat it, how best to package it, and how to make sure the community understands why we're doing what we're doing.
Any other questions from the audience? We can get back some time, Carrie. All right, thank you.